So let's start then the webinar. So I'm pleased to be the moderator of the webinar. So my name is Eric Feyen. I am the technical director of UYRR. This is the association promoting combined transport in Europe. So we are representing the combined transport operators and terminal managers in Europe. And we are pleased to be part of this Europe's rail project called European Shift Enabler Portal for Freight, in short ESEP4FREIGHT. And Celestino Sanchez will present briefly, I think, the objectives of this project. So the webinar is on document management and technologies and blockchain technologies in an intermodal context. We have proposed the following agenda. So you will have a presentation of the project by Mr. Sanchez. I will briefly make a presentation on the digital ecosystem in intermodal transport. And the key subjects of today is to present some solutions, some providers that have designed some solution for digital documentation, but also then using innovative technologies like blockchain or other, I think, ways of exchanging data. So we invited 4 companies. We will start with Define, which is a German-based consulting company with a dedicated department on blockchain technologies. Then we will have 3 companies that have developed solutions. So Pionera, based in Belgium, so with the presence of Stefan Gewart. Then we have a Dutch-based company, so DuckLab, represented today by Mr. Wout Freiters. And I hope that Transfollow, also a Belgium-based company, represented by Maurice Rösler, will be able to join today. Q&A sessions will be followed and after the 4 presentation, and we will, of course, then close the session with some conclusions. We have opened the chat, so my colleague Remy will be taking care of that. So don't hesitate to put comments on any questions, and we will then go through, I think, the different questions, I think, during the session. Yeah. So the first point of the agenda is then to make a presentation. So we'll ask now Mr. Sanchez from the company Ernex to present then briefly the objectives of our project. Yeah. Celestino, and you tell me.
Thank you.
The slides are here. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric, for the presentation, and good morning, everybody. So my name is Celestino Sanchez, and I am a project manager in Urnex, and I am also the technical coordinator of this project. And before you can, next slide, please. Before moving to the project, I would like to say a few words about Urnex, a short European Rail Research Network of Excellence. We are representing the interests of the research and education in Europe in the field of rail research and mobility, and with the idea of promoting the research in universities. And one of the main objectives is to promote the collaboration among members and also to facilitate the implementation of joint research projects. And ESEP4FREIGHT is actually one of these projects. Next slide, please. Yeah. Well, the main overall objective of this project is to promote the modal shift to rail in the logistics sector in Europe. And we have focused on 3 main objectives. The first of one is to collect or to identify the main needs of the logistics system regarding to identification in order to promote this shift to rail. Based on this gather information to create an online platform, gathering and presenting the most possible amount of information, of valuable information to the sector, with different modules. And then the third part will be to analyze the current contractual and legal framework in the logistics sector in Europe and issuing some recommendation. The consortium is formed by 9 partners. KTH is the coordinator. We have also another university, UPM. We have also one research institution, Eurocat, in Catalonia, and a consulting company, Tenalac, 3 associations, SGKV in Berlin, UIR, and we, Urnex, a logistic operator, Gruber in Italy, and a freight village operator, also Consortio ZAI in Verona. So it's relatively short consortium, and the project will last 2 years. Next slide. So yeah, regarding the project itself is divided in 3 stages. First is research. That's where we are right now. The project started in September 2023, so we are around the 6th month of the project. Then we will have the stage of the development of the platform, and in the end we will validate the platform itself. So focusing on the platform, I think that is the most interesting part here. We aim to develop a platform focusing around, by pivoting around an interactive map, and we will add some additional modules providing extra information. One of them is the route viewer between nodes or different cities, CO2 calculator of emission of the different possibilities of transport between the cities, a schedule viewer of the services that are available online. We will produce a contract toolbox where we put the analysis of the contractual framework, and we will make some proposal for the harmonization of some of this contract, and we will also add a matchmaking tool where information about logistic operators and other actors in the sector could be shared in order for suppliers, for instance, to see if they can satisfy their needs. So in parallel, but also not completely independent, we plan to develop this smart contract implementation pilot. That is that is the framework in which we are organizing this webinar. And I will focus a little bit more in the next slide on this part, because the part is more related to this to smart contract. Next slide, please. Yeah, our plan on this is aligned with the idea of gathering information about the needs of the logistics sector. And for this, we are going to explore the implementation of the ECMR and blockchain system. In parallel to this, we plan to develop 2 layers for this implementation pilot. The first one is an informative layer to serve as a specification for this integration of ECMR and blockchain, and additionally to this, a contractual layer with a standard contract with a set of clauses which could be selected by the different actors of the logistics sector. Once we have produced this, the idea is that we validate this with the partners in the project and also the external partners interested in this, so that we can gather information about what do they think, what do they miss, and yeah, what kind of possibilities they see in this system. Yeah, I think that is the last slide. That was very short, but I think that should be enough.
Yes, thanks, Celestine. Of course, I think it's setting the scene, I think, for today's webinar. So you highlighted, I think, where the smart contracts have been integrated into the project. I can just add, as UIR, we are responsible on the work packages, on the legal and contractual analysis, and also in this work package we have to analyze the use of technologies regarding document management. So that's why we have also organized this webinar. We have smart contracts, we have blockchain technology, but also document management in the scope of our project. Any questions in the chat for the moment so far, Remy? Do you see this?
Not yet.
Not yet, so okay. On the agenda, I think it's important, I think, in the intermodal transport to define a bit more where we are standing and maybe what is the current situation, but also I think the vision that we have as UIR. We represent a bit the intermodal sector. Shortly, I said already that we are the Industry Association of Combined Transport, so we present the combined transport operators. So you have a list of operators in the middle. So we have both, I think, combined transport role, we have terminal operators role, but then we have also then operators that are providing both, I think, aspect of the intermodal chain. We have on the top left partners that are connected to intermodal transport. We have MOUP, so National Association, that are also active in combined transport. And of course, our aim is to influence somehow the bottom right entities, meaning the European institution, the governmental bodies, I think, to influence them, and certainly in terms of digitalization, but I will come back to that a bit later. So, digital transformation, it's a big word in intermodal and certainly for railway, but are some key drivers, I think, that influence our current activities in digitalization. We have identified 5 main categories. One is the new entrants. Everybody knows, I think, how Amazon has changed, I think, logistics in the last few years. Amazon is also entering the freight business in general, and also influencing, I think, the logistics footprint. I think how to organize the transport of some freight in Europe and then also on the global scale. On the left side, you have customers and also shippers. So customers, that's, I think, where definitely they need much more reliable and accurate real-time information. To name some of them is, of course, the estimated time of arrival, estimated time of departure, the pickup time, booking information, and also maybe that's not here, but you need, I think, to exchange data for document management as well. On the right side, you have the shippers. They are using more and more software, of course, to exchange data. To name them, Bosch, Unilever, BMW, sorry, they are using, I think, in advanced software to organize their logistics. And we, as a combined transport, we have to integrate this environment, and that's a key aspect how to do that, how to integrate the railway parts into the supply chain based on these new drivers. And then comes the bottom part of those drivers, regulation. So we have a lot of regulation, I think, coming to us that pushes for the digitalization and the open data sharing concept. To name some in the railway is the tough design. It's the telematic application for freight. Basically, it was addressed for the railway undertakings and infrastructure manager, but more and more the combined transport aspects are integrated. So meaning that we have to integrate the terminals, we have to integrate the intermodal operators, and also at the end, also then the customers of those actors. And then also the initiative of the European Commission on this European mobility data space to push for the open data sharing concept. So meaning that they try to break a bit the ice and to break the barriers. And that's coming back to the legal and contractual arrangements. For the moment, in the past, it was always said, there are some legal barriers to stop or to avoid sharing of data. And more I'm hearing in the sector, but I have a contract, and that's why I cannot share the data. And that's how the Commission would like to break a bit this ice, to say we should have a freedom of like the goods and the person, and also the freedom to exchange data. And then comes on the telematics part, the Internet of Things, so the telematics. We have more and more, I think, assets that are equipped with the equipment. To name in the railway sector, we have wagons that are more and more, I think, equipped with those sensors and with different equipment for maintenance reason, for tracking purpose. And that's the same, I think, for other parts of the supply chain, like in the terminals. More and more of those technologies are, I think, installed. But that's now how to integrate those assets into the exchange of information and push, I think, the combined transport sector, I think, to somehow accelerate the digital transformation. So shortly, it's not here the digital ecosystem, it's more the ecosystem and the key elements. For us, we have here identified 3 elements, the key stakeholders. So that's the usual here, supply chain from the shippers. You have a terminal, you have a CT operators, you have the rail undertakings, you have a wagon keeper, you have also authorities. And on that one, you have a physical level, on the goods level, on the loading unit level, on train level. And for all these levels, you need data, you have contracts, you have documents to be exchanged. And then you have the digital or the IT system that are used for every process that has been identified in the physical then environment. So you have for planning, for booking, for execution, you have all types of digital solution that have been in place. As UIR, we have a vision or a strategy, I think, towards this digitalization. You have a physical infrastructure. That's something that will never change. You need these assets. You need loading units. You need trucks. You need wagons. You need the tracks to be able to organize the logistics and the transportation. In between, you have the human factors, and then on the top is the digital infrastructure. And here, very clear, I think you need digital platforms, you need digital players, like you will hear after here my presentation, for different purposes. Tracking and tracing is certainly one of the key aspects that have been developed so far. You have, for example, also for terminals, more and more application and digital services. And then document management. Document management is something very important, I think, in intermodal. I will come back. What are the challenges and the solution? And we need here for all these levels, I think, objectives, and that's what we follow as industrialization and what we push forward, I think, also towards our members to go in this direction. Paper documents, document management. We have seen here five main problems or difficulties. There is no surprise. Missing documents. I don't know how many times our members are complaining about that. Yeah, I need a document, I don't find it. Sometimes it's also that you cannot read the documents. I opened some boxes at the terminal, so you see the documents. Sometimes they are really not useful, I think. So you have to ask again to the clients, I think, what do you mean by that? You have to have a lot of, I think, exchange with them. Of course, if you have the documents are not there and you have difficulties, I think, to trace them, that's also something that might then impact, I think, at the end, the financing. Because at the end, transportation means a cost and a price behind that. And then comes, I think, no access to documents. So it means that even if the paper is there, sometimes, and that's certainly, I think, when you have to hand over, I think, the papers between, for example, railway undertakings, then you have no access. I think it's going to the locomotive drivers, for example, and then you miss it because it's not hand over to the other one. So again, there's a process, I think, in the paper world, and it should change, I think, in order, I think, to improve, I think, and to get a bit, I think, or to get time, I think, to work on other things. What would be the benefits, I think, if we digitalize those documents? Of course, easy access to documents. If you have then a kind of data storage, an easy way, I think, to access the data depending on your access rights. That's exactly what the providers will show you afterwards. It's possible. But of course, you need, I think, to go and to define, I think, then also the process behind. So you have a paper process, but this has to be changed into a digital process, and that's important, I think, to define common, I think, process here. Increase productivity, reduce the costs. I will just name, I think, one initiative of the Commission with the eFTI, so electronic trade transport information. There, in the impact assessment of the Commission, that's very clear. I think if we improve the digitalization of documents between business operators and also then economic actors and the authorities, definitely there the cost reduction and the increase of productivity will be then relevant, I think, in this activity. what are the challenges in documentation? So in intermodal transport, certainly we are confronted, and I'm not speaking on the rail, but it's road, rail, inland navigation, short sea shipping, that each transport mode has its own document requirements and formats. And so to name CMR, that's the paper version. You have also the eCMR, you have the SIM as a paper version, but you have also the eSIM. And unfortunately, that's not aligned. So meaning that certain data are relevant for roads, certain data elements are only defined for railway. And that's the way for the moment we are looking at the different transport modes. And that's one of the key to standardize. Yeah. The document process is also, and to be clear, I think today there is no intermodal transport document. It doesn't exist in Europe, but we have to cope with that. If you are going on road and then on rail and then on road, and to make a simple intermodal transport supply chain, there is a process to be defined with a lot of different elements and data elements that you need. To name description of goods, the quantity, the weight, the dimension, but also the shipper, consignee, and carrier. That's maybe the critical one, because shipper and consignee, depending on the transport modes, can be different. And that's where also we need a kind of standardization, I think, on those actors to have a common definition. Yeah. Now, the sharing and communication, that's key, because today we are using always, I think, a bit our conventional way of communicating. So emails is always something that is there, but this has to be, I think, improved to go towards a smooth implementation. And then comes the last point, is the technology integration. And so that's, for example, if blockchain technology could be a solution to integrate better the transport modes and better the different stakeholders, that's something to be analyzed. So about solution, common standards and formats, that's crucial. So you see eCMR on roadside, you have the eSIM on railway. Yeah, indeed, there are some standards, but for the moment, they are not really connected. What the Commission tries, I think, in different aspects, again, the eFTI regulation, for example, is a very good example how we could, I think, improve the standardization, because in the eFTI regulation, there are common data model, common data set of information, and that's something that we can reuse, I think, also as a business. Yeah. Another regulation is the waste regulation. So that's the regulation that rules the transport of waste in Europe. Also here, I think there is a platform developed by the European Commission, I think, to exchange on a common way all the relevant information on waste. So there are some examples, I think, pushed by the authorities in order to have then common standards and formats. And then comes the documentation process itself between the operators. So we have digital solution, you will hear some of them, and automation. Automation is certainly, I think, also then key in the current intermodal environment. So, for example, at the terminal level, there are more and more automatization of process to collect data. And here, how to do that? That's always the question. You need EDI interchange, but the key question, if those technology can be applied everywhere, and if they are already of benefits, I think, for the purpose of the digitalization of document management. So that's the question that we have in ESEP4FREIGHT. To be clear, in SUIR, we have to make a kind of SWOT analysis, I think, of those technologies to say that clearly, I think, what are the weaknesses, the opportunities, and so on. And that's one of the purpose of this webinar, I think, to exchange with current IC providers in which direction we are going, and maybe in which situation intermodal transport is, because that's, I think, also key. Because for the moment, that's a bit the impression of UIR that we are really in a silo world. So meaning that we are developing a lot of tools for the road, maybe for railway, and you don't connect those two transport modes. And that's not, I think, for the benefits at the end for the customer. So meaning that the shippers or the freight forwarders, they need integration. They need, I think, to be also integrated in the different transport modes. I just named road and rail. Intermodal transport is more than that. Our operators, for example, are offering, of course, services on rail, roads, inland navigation, short sea shipping. So you have to combine all these transport modes and to exchange information and also then documents. Yeah. That's in a nutshell, I think, the ecosystem in which we're involving. And document management is certainly one of the key also aspects that we have put into our roadmap for digitalization in UIR. And I'm really here grateful that we have ESEP4FREIGHT, I think, to make a deeper analysis, I think, on the situation in the digitalization of documents. Same question to you, Remy. Do you have some comments or question in the chat for the moment?
Still not.
Okay.
We can ask people maybe if you have a question at this time. Do not hesitate to use the chat.
Yeah. Okay, so timing is perfect for the moment. It's 10:01. Define asked me to start at that time. So just to present, I think, so I put the digital ecosystem and now we have asked so 4 providers. You see on the bottom here, right, define. So there will be Mark and Lisa presenting, I think, the activities developed within the companies. And then we will follow with the other one, so meaning with Stefan Gerard of Pionera and then Wout Freiters from DocLab. So thanks for the speakers to be there, to have the time, I think, to speak about their activities. So I don't know if this is Lisa starts or Mark, but please then define, you can start, I think, presenting a bit your views regarding document management and certainly about blockchain technologies. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Thanks for having us. My name is Mark. I'm a senior manager in our applied blockchain practice here at Define. For those of you who do not know Define, my colleague Lisa will give a brief intro on the firm at the end of our time slot. Yeah, as I said, we're happy to be here. And I now have the honor to give a quick intro on what blockchain actually is, what smart contracts actually are. And I will close with a use case on contract management that we recently discussed with an asset manager, and some applications on digital identities. And then Lisa will build on Eric's thoughts, I believe, on how new regulation may actually create more need for decentralized technology. All right, so to get started, let's dive into blockchain technology. And I would like for you perhaps to think about the last time you actually sent an email with an attachment. This is a recent example from me here. And I'm pretty sure that you thought about a lot of things, like, am I sending it to the right people? Is the quality of the file okay? Is it the correct file? But what many people do not think about is what will happen after I send the file? What will happen with this digital asset that I'm sending out? Because the internet actually allows us to share information very easily, but there's no inherent measure against duplication. And this is where blockchain actually comes in. So here's the Beagle Boys with a great idea. They say, we'll just spend our Bitcoin twice, right? We know that Bitcoin is a digital currency based on blockchain. And this is actually what blockchain prevents. So this is the core of what it does, right? It creates a cryptographic proof of ownership for digital items. So it is impossible to do what their great idea is. So in a nutshell, what you can say is that blockchain is essentially a database, but it has additional features that help bring additional value to data because it gives you this proof of ownership inside the technology itself. And even though that is the case, and that's actually a great feature, blockchain still suffers from a bad reputation here and there. But I would like to state here today that many assumptions about it are actually false. And I brought 6 myths that I want to talk about or touch upon just very, very briefly. So the first myth that I hear a lot is that blockchain and Bitcoin are essentially the same thing. And that is really not the case. Bitcoin, as many of you will know, is a digital currency, and it builds on blockchain technology. So there are really 2 sides of the discussion. There's the discussion about crypto assets and Bitcoin and so forth that is built on the technology. But then there's also the technology itself and what you can use it for. Which brings me to my next point, which is that many people still think that blockchain is bad for the environment. And obviously, there are a few blockchain technologies, I want to say, especially those built on the proof of work consensus mechanism that use up a lot of electricity. But that's not all of them. There's a lot of blockchain technologies out there that do not use a lot of electricity. And then there's always the question, is it really bad to use a lot of electricity? And you can argue that if the use case is important enough, then perhaps it isn't. But what I want to say here is that even if it were, there's a lot of blockchain technology out there that does not use up too much energy. So being green and using blockchain is not a problem anymore. Another one I like particularly is that crypto assets are only used by terrorists. So you always hear about how payments had to be made when there was a terrorist attack in Bitcoin. The fact is that on a blockchain, you have a huge audit trail. You know what happened in the past, all the way to the beginning of the network. And that is actually great because you can trace any payment all the way to the back, which is why a lot of banks like the technology a lot. And we talked to departments in banks that are responsible for anti-terrorist financing, counter-terrorist financing, anti-money laundering, and so forth. And they said in regular banking, you have the opportunity to go one step back. And with blockchain, you can actually go a lot of steps back. And this is actually great for them because they can do so much more analysis on the data. Fourth point is blockchain is only relevant for the financial sector. This is something I also hear a lot, and obviously it started there because of Bitcoin, because of other digital currencies, because of all of what you hear in the media about Bitcoin, ETFs, and so forth. But the technology itself is actually useful for a lot of other branches, and transportation might just be one of them. Another one is that blockchain makes all my data public, and obviously there are public blockchains where you have a pseudonym that represents you, and what you do with a pseudonym can be seen on chain. But there are measures against that for public networks, and there are a lot of technologies being developed for private networks where this is actually not the case. So using distributed ledger technology or blockchain does not automatically mean that you reveal everything yourself. There are measures against that. And finally, blockchain does not address any real-world problems. And I hear that a lot, and that is probably because of all the other myths. But we've seen a lot in the past that many use cases were actually built using the technology that went very well. So this is actually the summary of all the things above that I've just mentioned, and this is actually quite important to me. After all, blockchain is just a technology, right? It cannot solve anything on its own. You have to use it as a tool, and you have to use it right. And you have to know what is a myth and what is actually true. And if you understand that, then you can use it correctly, I want to say, and then it might actually make sense for it to address certain problems that we've already heard from Eric, for instance, when it comes to document management and so forth. A term that you've also heard before, even today, is the one of smart contracts. And smart contracts is something that is enabled by blockchain technology. And I wanted to just quickly say what they actually are. Smart contracts are basically programs that run in a blockchain network. So here you might have 3 different companies. They have their backends that they already have today, some software running in the back. And these backends might be connected to blockchain nodes. And those are all connected to one another, and they form the blockchain network. And on that network, you have these programs, smart contracts. And I have a formal definition here on the left, what they are. Some important terms: that they run deterministically and independent from the creator, that you can verify the execution. But the most important thing is always, what are they not? And here's what they are not. Smart contracts are not contracts in legal terms, and they're not a way to enforce a contract. So they are really, despite the term, they are really just programs that automate business logic on a decentralized platform. So they allow for shared logic and data between parties that do not trust one another, right? Because you have these cryptographic principles from the blockchain, you inherit those into your smart contract, and you can build a program that says, if that happens, then do that. But that's all. It's just a program that runs in that network. Now that we know what blockchain is and what smart contracts are, I think it's important to understand when is a problem actually a blockchain problem, because sometimes the technology is used even though it might not be the most fitting technology. And if you want to discover that, then it's always great to answer a few questions. So let's remember what some what some blockchain specifics are. One is that data and logic are distributed over the entire network. Another aspect is that the data and the transactions are stored immutably via cryptographic links. It gives you the basis for a digital asset representation. Remember, we talked about proof of ownership, right? So you can represent a digital asset on that on this technology, and you usually have these smart contract capabilities. Now, that does not always apply for all types of distributed ledger technology, but it's a good average of what these networks provide. And if you know that these are the most inherent features of a blockchain, then good questions to ask are, is there more than one owner of data in my problem that I want to solve? And would an immutable audit trail of transactions be a requirement? Is proof of ownership of something a desired feature? And do participants share business logic, or do they just require certain data points from one another? And if the answer to a lot of those questions is yes, then it is more likely that blockchain technology may actually be a good fit for the underlying use case. And I wanted to bring an example, as I mentioned in the beginning, of something we recently discussed with an asset manager. And this asset manager said that they have a huge problem in real estates, in real assets, right? When you think of houses, buildings, and so forth, that there's a lot of contracts involved with these assets. So first of all, such a building can be represented as a digital asset. It receives a digital twin in the network. So you have this asset aspect. But then you have all these different roles up here, right? You have the asset manager itself. You have an insurance company, a bank, the tenant and contractor, landlord, and so forth. You can see them all up here. There's probably more. These are the ones that we identified in our first session, where we thought, well, all these entities, they do have an inherent interest to looking at true states of contracts. Now, we've already seen that smart contracts are not per se contracts, but what you can put on the blockchain is the data that you want to look at. You can put functions on the blockchain in terms of smart contracts that give you means of changing the data in a way that all these parties can trust one another. And so what you can actually put here is the lease, the loan, service agreements, insurance, inspections, due diligences, maintenance contracts. All these types of contracts can be put here. So you can put on the network all the information you need for these contracts, and you can put the functions where one party is allowed to write something only if it's actually true. And then you always look at the same standardized contracts. You always look at the same data, and you always know just how to integrate that into your infrastructure and your IT architecture. And this is, I think, a nice example because it might transfer very well to what you're talking about with intermodal problems that you're facing. Because what could be more intermodal than something like this, right? I mean, it's many different types of entities who want to share business logic, but they do not necessarily trust one another. The tenant and the landlord, the contractor and the owner of the real asset, they might actually really want to be interested in the data being real. Then next step would be, what if there's more than one asset manager, more than one contractor on that? So you have all these different entities with their different interests, and you could bring them together on such a platform. So this is the one use case that we just recently discussed, and it was quite interesting to see what kind of efficiencies you can get from that. A second thought I just wanted to bring, and it is not necessarily always built on blockchain technology, but blockchain technology has inspired this, is the space of digital identities. Because decentralization of data and processes can create additional efficiencies when you think about identities and credentials. And in this space of decentralized identities, or self-sovereign identity, as it is often referred to, you have three entities: an issuer of a credential, a holder, and a verifier. And what would happen is that the issuer sends the holder a credential that they hold, and then they can present that to a verifier. Now, how is that different to today? Well, the thing is that this holder actually holds this credential in their own wallet, where they only have the key. So the issuer would send this verifiable credential to them, and only they store the data. So it's not stored on a centralized server somewhere, it's only stored with them. So all these people, all these devices running around, perhaps all these trains and all these ships, they all have their own wallet, and they all store the credentials that describe them, and they can actually be verified by someone they want to send this to. And the cool thing about it is that there is no connection required between the verifier and the issuer in the moment where they want to verify the credential. So the ship might be all the way on the other side of the world, and they want to present that they're actually from Germany. Then the verifier can get a cryptographic proof that that is actually true without having to contact the issuer of the credential. The personal data is only stored here on the holder's wallet. It's not stored anywhere else. And the cool thing is that these claims in there, like I'm actually from Germany, or I'm actually a consultant with Define, they can be reused in various locations. So you get the credential once and you use it many, many times, which is quite different to how digital claims work today. So that was a bit of a fast track on what blockchain and smart contracts actually are, and what they might solve, and what some important myths are, what is actually not true about them. Use cases we discussed in the space of asset management with real assets, and some ideas on identity. And this is the point where I would like to hand over to Lisa. You want to steal my screen? Yes, I guess you do. And this is where I stop talking. Stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So I will now build on that, and also on that what Eric already presented, and give a really short overview over applications in transport for blockchain technology, or for digital platforms that might be based on a blockchain in the end. We already heard about the digital freight documents that are often mentioned as a possible use case for blockchain. And as Eric already said, there are these different electronic freight documents around for the different modes. They have different data models in the back. They even sometimes have a different kind of technological way of describing the data. And there are different solutions on the market that provide a digital freight document for especially this one or other mode. These freight documents are mainly designed for a B2B exchange. And now there's this eFTI that was already mentioned, which is kind of the attempt to harmonize all these documents, to have a data model which incorporates all the necessary information from the different modes, but also kind of harmonizes the data model so that some data fields that are maybe not necessary for a mode can also be skipped. So the reason why this has been mentioned for blockchain applications, I think, is clear. Looking back to these questions that Mark addresses, there are some things that need to be proven, like proof of delivery. Sometimes freight documents are even endorsable, so that there's also the ownership of freight connected to the ownership of the document. And sometimes there's a need of a kind of tamper-proof track record, for example, of transport conditions. So thinking of blockchain for transport documents isn't that off. But eFTI now tries to solve several issues, not only this data connection, not only this B2B exchange where you might like to have the proof. It's primarily designed for a B2A data exchange, so authority communication, and that's also an application where, for example, proof and write data is some really crucial thing. So eFTI might be a good thing for this. And another thing that comes now with the revision of the CT directive is that also eFTI platforms are planned to incorporate a calculator to prove whether the operation is eligible as combined transport and therefore eligible for benefits according to the external cost calculation, which is also something that needs to be reported then. So application and transport might be digital freight documents. How could the architecture for this look like then? In the end, we have here a transport chain from a consignor to a consignee. The consignor commissions the carrier who loads the freight and brings it to the pickup location that was determined by the consignee. And on this journey, there are different checkpoints where digital data exchange should or can happen. And in an eFTI world, for example, this could look like that the consignor is connected to an eFTI platform. Also, the carrier doesn't need to be the same platform because these platforms should be designed interoperable with a technology-independent connection between them so that they can exchange data and have it digitally available then. Also then in the end, control authorities might like to check customs and so on. So they can also then access the data that was provided via FT or via the national access point, which also makes use of this technology independent connection to all the different platforms. And then in the end, the consignee again needs to communicate with the carrier, and that can also again happen via the possibly even different eFTI platforms. So that is what is envisioned. I think already here it becomes clear that this might use advantages from blockchain technology. One thing that Eric already addressed is what are the benefits of digital freight documents and possibly also of blockchain-based documents. I think these automation possibilities through smart contracts, the possibility of archiving, of proof of insurance, and also of sustainability through calculating not only external costs, but maybe also emissions, and then reporting all these values and parameters is something that one needs to bear in mind. So digitalization is also something that can unlock potential when using this digital freight documents. And with that, as Mark already said, I would like to end our talk and say a few words about DeFine. Why are we here, and how does it come that we work on these topics in transport? DeFine is a consultancy, a European consultancy with more than 1,500 employees, and we have a strong analytical, technological background. Also, we're awarded as a hidden champion in data analytics, so that is our DNA. Very technological, data-driven project, and often, as you have the combination here as well today, we work together in teams with technology expertise and also with the business expertise. Mark is from the blockchain department. I am working on transport and logistics, and I've already myself and DeFine have already been working together with UIRR on several projects within the CT4EU campaign, market studies, and also calculations of sustainability parameters. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thanks, Mark and Lisa, for this very interesting presentation. I can only confirm that indeed we have worked with you, and I must say that I was not aware about your activities in blockchain technologies. And Mark, I really appreciate your intervention because it clarifies some aspects of blockchain and smart contracts, because that's really needed, I think, because when we had our bilateral chat, I said in the intermodal world, immediately when you hear blockchain or smart contracts, you have a kind of very negative reaction. But we need, I think, this kind of presentation to make aware the sector that these technologies are helping and supporting our activities. And I like the example that you have put with the asset manager, and that you can somehow transform this experience into the intermodal world. That's really great. Yeah. And thanks, Lisa, for the summary of the regulation. And I think there was a question in the chat about the waste regulation in the railway sector. But the waste initially was supposed to be covered by the eFTI, and during the discussion, there will be in the next week there will be a new waste regulation that will be published by the Commission. But there they have defined a digital platform to be used by all stakeholders that are transporting waste. So it means that it will be completely separated with the eFTI, and there will be a separate waste platform to be used by the stakeholders, so including, of course, rail. And here, I think, again, we are in contact with the Commission. We need also to be also somehow reported and to understand, I think, what will be then those requirements regarding waste. We have to pay attention, of course, that we are not going to develop a lot of different digital platforms for different purposes. That will be key. And I think certainly as UIR, as in the association, we will take care about this initiative and not to multiply them. But eFTI and combined transport, you have heard by Lisa that this is somehow integrated, and we should use, I think, this opportunity to exchange the data only through these eFTI platforms.
And Eric, may I
Yes, Mark.
address one of the other questions here with the customs documents? Perhaps to bring it in a bit more general, I showed you these two different examples of the asset manager and this platform with contract management, and then I talked about these self-sovereign identities. And the most important difference between the two is that with a blockchain, you would have all the data in a central but distributed place. With these verifiable credentials, you have the data in the wallets of people or entities that are concerned about the data, and they get to decide who they want to share it with. And so it's always important to understand what kind of technology do I want to use? Do I want to put all my data on a centralized place, which is distributed, or would I put it in credentials that sit with the people that carry them around? And when you talk about customs documents and customs information and so forth, perhaps there's information in there that's a bit more sensitive and where you want to be a bit more careful about that. So you would rather send that to people such that they have it and can share it in a verified way, rather than putting it on a platform where everyone can see them. So there's always the trade-off between the two, availability, but they're always verifiable on both sides. But that is something you would always have to think about. But there's both ideas and systems available. Just wanted to mention that. And there was another question, Eric, not sure if we have the time to address it when it comes to standardization and so forth.
Indeed, you make a chat moderator, Mark. That's great.
I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I just read.
No problem, no problem. I'm smiling. Yes, about customs. Okay, that's a bit the same as waste. There is a customs regulation, and the stakeholders have to apply it. So there is a platform regarding customs. So you have to share the data on this customs platform. You don't have the choice. The key question is how to deal this customs information between the stakeholders. And that's what you have responded to, Mark, to say there are different potentials here, I think, to exchange those data. This will be the same for dangerous goods, for example. It's the same for waste. It's the same for any kind of information that you need to exchange here. And then here, after Pionera and DocLab will show, I think, how you could do that. That's exactly the aim of today's webinar, to show, I think, how we can integrate those elements into centralized or decentralized solution. Yeah. About standardization, yeah, indeed, that's one of the aspects of ESEP4FREIGHT. We need to address the legal environment of the different transport modes, and to see which are the common elements of those legal act. And then we are going to enter also then the contractual arrangements, I think, between the different stakeholders, to analyze, I think, in terms of responsibilities, liabilities, and then also data exchange. So it's a quite important work to be done. But indeed here, this compatibility issue is there. So we were involved, for example, in the Phoenix project. Pionera will report now on that. Indeed, that was one of the key aspects to be addressed. Yeah.
And I would like to add that in my previous life, I worked on optimization of flows in a data warehouse. And there we always had the problem that there were different data standards. So we said we have to consolidate them and create one data standard for all. And if you had 5 before, then afterwards you had 6, because you never were actually able to consolidate everything into one standard. And that's the great thing about blockchain. It kind of forces you to use the same standard on a certain level, but you get to write your own adapter that brings the data into your system or into your ecosystem or into your use case, right? So you have this common layer where everything is standardized by default, and then you get to write adapters that bring the data. And this is just the technical aspect of it, right? That bring the data into your system. And that's kind of the beauty of it, because you don't have to create this one data model for all. That's just one thought I wanted to add here. Now I'll shut up, Eric, sorry.
No problem. I prefer lively webinar when there is an exchange. Yeah. Okay, thanks for your presentation. Now I will go then also in more details about 2 digital providers. We will start with Stefan Gewart, the Chief Technical Officer of Purina, that will show, I think, how they have integrated some document-related data. Yeah. So Stefan, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Are you going to share? I think the best is that you share your presentation, Stefan, but I have it if you need them. But do you prefer it?
I will share it, no problem.
Then you have more freedom, I think, to
to
switch between your slides here.
Sure. Do you see my screen?
Yes, now, yes, indeed. Yeah.
Okay. So good morning, everybody. I'm Stefan Gewart. I'm a Chief Technical Officer and co-founder of Pionira. We were founded in 2014. We were, I think, some years before prototyping our ECMR solution. We are located in Belgium, in Oostkamp. And our main focus is on dematerializing paper freight documents. So, as I said, our first document we digitized was the ECMR. Afterwards, we realized, and some of our customers also, that there are still a lot of legally obliged freight documents that in road transport a carrier needs to have for his transport. So, for example, the DG Annex, dangerous goods for transport of waste, domestic. There are some legal differences. So, for domestic transport, for international transport of waste. We also provide documents and digitalized documents on the transport of soil, contaminated, non-contaminated soil, and so on. Maybe let's start with road transport, where it all started 2014. The process itself, so the paper CMR, the paper CMR is normally signed by the shipper and the carrier when the goods are handed over to the carrier and then signed at delivery. So we wanted to digitize, dematerialize that process so that it was the change management was very low. And so after ECMR, what you see also is that the parties, the stakeholders, somebody at the loading place, the driver itself, they can sign using a mobile device, or for example, the shipper can sign beforehand using their devices themselves. Okay. How did we implement this? What we saw, there are, of course, a number of stakeholders, and you have to facilitate the collaboration between those stakeholders in a secure and trusted way. So, like I said, we started in 2014. Blockchain was some technology that was not heard of at that moment. So we don't use blockchain technology. Like you saw in the previous presentation, can you use blockchain technology for this? Yes, indeed. To facilitate that, I think the proof of ownership of the data and so on. So, but for the moment, our solution is implemented not using blockchain. So like I said, you need the digital collaboration of multiple stakeholders. Shippers need to provide data, carriers need to provide data, consignees, maybe loading places, delivery places, terminals, and so on. Also important when you're digitalizing a process like that is also the lifecycle management. We're not talking about invoices or contracts. We're talking about dynamic documents. For example, a driver is stopped for a road inspection. The container is opened. There is a reseal. That fact needs to be registered and also needs to be part of the document. I think registration of empties, returnables, refused goods, and so on. These are all part of the transport and are normally on a paper document or written on the document, which makes it, of course, afterwards difficult to process that. But in a digital process, you also need to be able to do that. And because you have the lifecycle manager, it means that you can also notify the interested stakeholders. That means you can send real-time notifications to stakeholders that subscribe to certain events. For example, the delivery of the goods is an interesting event that can be used by the stakeholders who are obliged, of course, to detect that event and then can, for example, start processes, workflows regarding invoicing, credit notes, and so on. Also important in our implementation at that time was, of course, the ECMR protocol. I think the most important thing there is that the shipper and the carrier, when handing over the goods, needs to sign that document using an electronic signature, not sign on glass. In certain countries, like, for example, Spain and France, where you have the French consignment note for domestic transport. There, for example, every party can sign with a sign on glass and signature like that. But of course, there you don't have the integrity of the document. You don't have a number of, proof of that fact. That is also the non-repudiation part is not present when you have a signature like that. Okay, so that's on the part of the road. Then I think what is interesting is the Phoenix pilot. In the Phoenix project, where I think for this Phoenix pilot, Eric, you were the pilot leader. It concerned the multimodal transport of waste. The overview was that we wanted to use the Pioneer Iwastra platform, like we designed it for transport of road, for a multimodal transport of waste, where a waste producer needs to transport waste to a waste recycling facility and does that by pre-haul by a truck to a terminal, an inland water waste terminal. Then the container goes onto the barge, is delivered at a terminal. Another truck for the last mile picks up the goods and delivers at the waste recycling facility. The aim there was to use the Phoenix connector in two scenarios. One for business-to-business communication between the different stakeholders there, but also to demonstrate how it could be used in a business-to-authority aspect. And there we built a specific Phoenix connector, which was able to connect to an authority using the one app for authorities, also from which came from the federated project, but its aim was to request and receive data sets that an officer that, for example, did a control on the road could use to control and to inspect the documents. What we did there was we had a number of data sets that we could offer. One was an eFTI data set, the other the UN ECMR, UN CFACT ECMR data set, or for example, a signed PDF. Okay. So the one app for authorities, there we, via the Phoenix connector, we connected to a EU gate, which was kind of what is now known, I think, as the eFTI access point, national access point, to be able to use the one app to inspect the documents. So, of course, what were our goals there? So, if, like I discussed, multimodal transport, data sharing between the stakeholders using the Phoenix platform, because, of course, we implemented eWastra as a centralized solution. So that means everybody needs to be connected to our platform. Of course, Phoenix enabled us to work in a kind of decentralized way where we connected to other Phoenix enabled platforms. The goal was indeed, can we use Phoenix also for business to authority, where depending on the role of the control authority, like I mentioned, present several data sets, ECMR data set, the waste shipping receipt data set, because in this case, the road transport also needs the waste shipment receipt, but also the ECMR, of course. Okay. What were the challenges at that time? eFTI was still work in progress. Waste transport was still in scope. It will come again in scope, like Eric mentioned. But there was still a lot that was missing. So, for example, a number of stakeholders that were normally mentioned on the waste shipping receipt, we couldn't map them to the eFTI dataset. What was also a challenge was involving key stakeholders. It was no problem to involve the producer of the waste, the recycling facility, the carriers. It was not so easy to, or in the pilot, it was not the case. We didn't, how do you say, onboard the barge operators, terminals, and things like that. What were the benefits? Of course, for the connected parties, we have and the end-to-end visibility. We have, of course, the real-time notifications. Maybe also worth mentioning, reduce errors, loss of paper documents, because if you look at the CMR or the waste shipping receipt, as long as the goods are contained in the same transport equipment, like the trailer or the container. The CMR normally with the paper flow must follow the goods. So there we saw that a lot of paper documents were sometimes lost. The last mile, they received, for example, the wrong documents, or even worse, they received the correct document but the wrong container. So these are things that once you digitize, dematerialize that process, that are benefits that are really interesting. Okay. So as I said, what was missing? Available information. So from the terminals, from the e-gates, and what, for example, if we could also capture the events that the container was loaded on the barge, or the container was discharged from the barge, and so on. Maybe in for example, other types of transport where, for example, short sea discharge of the containers and so on, could be interesting events that could be communicated to carriers, for example, or to the receiving party itself also. Okay, so maybe to summarize, in my intro, I said we dematerialize paper documents. And why didn't I say digitize? Because every time we go to customers and we say, or potential customers, and we say digitalization of the ECMR, they mostly say, okay, we have that. We print the ECMR. We have a PDF of the ECMR. So we don't have written documents. We can scan them. We can OCR them. But that's not digitization. Digitization is stopping, thinking about the documents and optimizing the process. You need to take the process into the picture, and then I think you can see the benefits. You can see the benefits. You also see, for example, do I need still a document? For example, we were once in a project regarding the European cleaning document, where, for example, that document is not used during road control. So why would you have a PDF for a document that a driver needs to have on his device to show to, for example, a controlling instance? So that's maybe to conclude that we are not a document management system. I think document management, if you look at pure document management, you start from the document, extract metadata, and use that metadata to optimize your processes. I think if you really want to benefit from digitalizing or dematerializing, like we say, freight documents, you need to start with the process. Okay, then I would thank you for your attention. I would also thank you, Eric, for this opportunity to present what we did in the Phoenix pilot, and that's my my presentation for now.
Thanks, Stefan. I must say that I was indeed involved in this intermodal case for the Phoenix project. I can only confirm it was difficult, I think, to integrate the railway world into that, because we had some actors, I think, but it was very, very difficult. But what was interesting indeed, that's your last line about processes. That's exactly what we have defined. So they have somehow discovered indeed that they have to improve those processes. And they have worked on that. So that's why they were not ready, I think, because they had to first analyze the as-is and the to-be situation. And that took a lot of time in a context, of course, that was not so stabilizing with the EFTI, because indeed EFTI was not ready. The data model was not there. The data elements were not fixed. That's now the case. But what is great with EFTI, at the end, there is no transport document, because that's exactly what you mean, Stefan, by your presentation, yeah. Because EFTI is going directly into the digital world. So they are not developing any intermodal transport document. They are defining the process in which we should involve. That's why, as UIR, we are pushing hard, because we need an intermodal transport document indeed, but we don't need a paper version. We need to go directly to digital. Let's switch this process to not to define a regulation with a nice annex with a paper, and then we have to define the process. In the EFTI, somehow the process is there. Of course, it's a huge gap to cover because we don't have the document. So a lot of people say, but I don't know what to do because you don't have the data, but that's to be defined. So the Commission asked the sector to define in common those data elements. And for combined transport, so there are more than 100 data elements have been defined to be clear, I think, on the process that you should follow. That's of course the Commission and also as UIR to disseminate and to promote that, but that's exactly the step in which we should then go. Yeah, that's very clear. But at the end, your system, Stefan, because you said that, okay, the problem is that you have still static document to be produced, but your system produced this document. So meaning if you need the Annex 7 to be produced, you can extract those Annex 7 from your system, if I understand well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we can, depending on the type of transport, we can extract the necessary data. But like I said, yeah, we extract it as a PDF. Why? Because for the moment, that's for a lot of not only authorities, but also, for example, for in the case of ECMR, a lot of end customers ask a copy of the PDF, for example, to. So this is still something that just to. It's still a disruptive technology because if we see that, for example, we have still customers that print out the PDF, even you have an electronic document, but print out the PDF to attach it to an invoice and to send it to their customers. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's exactly what is in the chat, because one guest said for the waste, it will not be possible, seeing that all the authorities pretend the hard paper. And I must say that we had at UIR, we have a dangerous goods and waste interest group, and we are really fighting that if there is a digital solution in place, it should be the priority, and not to say that, yeah, you exchange digital data, but then also in the process you have still the paper version. So that's a bit, I think, contradictory. And here we have to fight. If there is a digital platform, the authorities should accept that. That's exactly what the EFTI will impose to the authorities. Coming back to that, there is a question: how was the acceptance from the authorities?
Well, of course, in the how do you say, in the pilot that we did, there was no authority involved. It was a demonstrator. Now, for the moment, for example, in Belgium, we have the possibility that the driver itself during road transport, and he gets a control that he can, for example, generate a QR code, which the controlling instance can scan, and they receive the PDF to inspect. Of course, we're looking with, for example, the Benelux pilot on ECMR. There we are looking on how to provide the data using the one-up for authority. Yeah.
Thanks,
But of course, for example, Belgium, I think, is still waiting for the outcome of FT to
Indeed,
to
so
have a kind of one platform to control the documents. Yeah.
To be clear on that, so in the Combined Transport Directive, and that was mentioned by Define and Lisa, so there's a clear link between the definition of combined transport and the eFTI platform, but that's a very clear also somehow conditional implementation. If the eFTI platforms are not ready, then we have to put this on hold. And so that's a very clear also then article in the new CT directive that we need first, of course, the FTI fully implemented in order to be able and to also then to have the implementation of the CT directive. So that's also a precondition or pre-requirement. I think that we can go in this direction. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. Now for the FTI, we have implementing act and delegated act on the preparation. For the data models, that's now over. So it means that this is done. And now we're going then to the next step, I think, because at the end, it's certified eFTI platforms that have to become reality in the next years. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Stefan, for joining this webinar. And I will invite another partner with whom we were in contact in another project. So we'll ask now Wout Freiters from portfolio owner of DotLab to make to present their solution. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
I guess you can see my slides, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Wout Freiters. I manage our lab portfolio and act as a product owner in a variety of software products and research projects. I had the pleasure of meeting Eric in the planning project where we collaborated on a multimodal shipment documentation solution, which I will demonstrate at the end of this presentation. And for the record, I have to stand in for Alyosha, who is much more knowledgeable on this particular domain. So I'll do my best to fulfill his shoes. All right. This is the outline of my presentation. So I'll briefly introduce our company. Then I will talk about the added value of blockchain for business applications. Then I will explain 4 of our applications in the logistics sector on a high level, continuing with the detailed explanation of one of them, our multimodal shipment documentation platform. Then I will explain a case study that we use to finally demonstrate the workings of this platform. So DocLab, founded in 2017 by Alyosha and Jan-Joost Jullens. It started as an IT lab of the Port of Rotterdam with the mission to experiment with the application of innovative digital technologies in the logistics and in the energy sector. And since approximately a year ago, we transitioned from purely a lab to more of an incubator model with the addition of a venture studio and a flexible layer of offshore development capacity, with the goal to commercialize valuable products that come out of the lab. You may know us from some of our work. We worked together with the Singaporean authorities on the electronic bill of lading, which resulted in the preparation of making amendments in the Dutch Civil Code for the acceptance of electronic documents. We developed the Distro Energy platform, which is an AI-driven peer-to-peer energy trading platform specifically aimed at microgrids. We also developed KeyConnect, which is a fully digitalized customs declaration platform. We also built HydroTwin, which is currently rebranding to Fuel Forward, and they are all about setting up an audit trail for the certification of green hydrogen and biofuels. And last, one of our other spin-outs is ILSA. It's a community funding and ownership of renewable energy assets. So as you can see, we're mostly active in the energy and logistics domain. So blockchain for business. I wanted to start with the basics, but I think Define already explained the basics of blockchain really well and thoroughly. So I will continue with the bottom part, which is now actually the value of blockchain in our reality, in our business reality. So we like to use it as a trustworthy common frame of reference for siloed systems that need to collaborate in a process, but not necessarily trust each other. And this allows also for a many-to-one system integration instead of a many-to-many. Instead of connecting all of these various systems together for the execution of the process, you can all connect them to the blockchain, and therefore you you don't have to integrate all of these systems together. We also use it as an authorization layer for ownership, value, and events. And in the whole supply chains, we like to think in 3 layers: the physical, the information, and the financial layer. Well, with the help of the smart contracts, blockchain provides the first instance of the integration of the information and the financial layer. So especially when more and more objects are going to be tokenized, and also with the issuing of central bank digital currencies, etc., I think we will see these layers be integrated more and more in the future. So now I will highlight 4 of the applications that we did in logistics. So we use blockchain for the secure digital transfer of a bill of lading. A traditional bill of lading transfer is, of course, paper-based. Therefore, it had to be couried to the final recipient, which could take 5 to 10 business days. So we developed a system to issue and to transfer electronic bill of lading, so they come in a tokenized form. And this process took less than 24 hours. And this lead time is mainly based on the responsiveness of the stakeholders, because blockchain allows for direct settlement. So if all of these parties were, let's say, paying attention in the process of transferring and issuing this document, then it could happen even in let's say, a minute. And this pilot project was built on the open source trade trust framework as developed by IMDA. Another of our applications is, like I mentioned earlier, for the certification of green hydrogen, where we basically tokenize a batch of hydrogen, which you can see as the digital twin of this batch. Now, key events that happen in the supply chain are logged on the token on-chain, creating a auditable product journey. So you basically create a digital twin of the product journey that is fully traceable and accessible. And then for each event in the supply chain, we store the original document in a digital vault, where the document uploader always remains in control over this document. And we notarize a fingerprint with the event on chain to achieve that audit trail. So then indeed you result in a trustworthy and traceable trail for the green certification and trading of hydrogen. Another application, like I said, we developed in collaboration with UIRR, is our multimodal shipment documentation platform. It's one location to digitalize, collect, manage, and share documents required for the execution of a shipment. It enables all stakeholders to collaborate on the document collection process. And then for each attached document or action on a document, let's say an approval or a rejection, we again store the original document in a vault, allowing the user to maintain control over it, while we notarize the essential information. So the user, the action, and the document fingerprint We notarize that on chain, which provides, as earlier mentioned in previous presentations, provides proof of ownership, proof of existence of this particular document in a moment in time. And you can also prove the integrity, because the fingerprint is generated through a hash function. So if you have the original document and you hash it, you get the result of the document fingerprint, so you can verify that on chain that you're seeing or viewing or have received the original document. And then this, let's say, base platform, you can use to serve all kinds of interesting business cases with, for example, the digital customs declarations. So since Brexit, goods have imported to the UK have to undergo full customs checks. The whole preparation, the handover, and the checking of paper documents takes longer than the actual shipment. And so because of the whole digitalization and the notarization of the documents, documents can be handed over and checked before and during shipment, which prevents border waiting times and improves overall operational efficiency. So as these 4 applications have shown, in essence, we use the blockchain for process logging, for process coordination, and for tracking, and also for the notarization of events and documents. So now let's dive more into the details of this multimodal shipment platform. So on a high level, this is the workflow, which I will demonstrate later. So it starts with a user creating and setting up a shipment object that includes general shipment information, container level information, and the user selects the involved document types on shipment level, but also on container level. Next, this user will upload their part of the document load that is required to execute this shipment. And he will then upload documents on shipment and on container level. Third, he will create roles for his shipment, especially, in particular for the stakeholders that also need to view, add, or reject or approve certain documents. And fourth, these stakeholders then are invited to do their actions, to perform their actions, and to also upload their part of the required documents for the execution of this shipment. So we took a case study of an intercontinental rail transport from starting in Ludwigshafen in Germany, all the way to Shanghai in China, and it crosses Poland, Russia, and Kazakhstan. It involves 1 pickup, 2 transshipments, and also 2 border crossings and 1 delivery. The cargo was a variety of chemicals, so dangerous goods. And this particular shipment had 82 tanker carriages. And for each, and then the required documents for the execution of the shipment of this whole transport are shipment level documents, carriage level documents. You need also the Russian and Chinese translations for particular documents. So this could easily amount to hundreds of documents necessary to execute the shipment. Here is a more schematic view of the shipment, and here you also see the focus of the demonstration. So what you will see later is VTG logging in to create the shipment and to add their part of the documents. VTG also will create roles for HUPAC and for the other involved parties to perform their actions. So after VTG, we log in as HUPAC to add the SIM documents and to perform some other actions. Then we log in as a Polish customs agent to also do their part of the shipment, and finally as a Chinese rail agent. So that is what you're going to see now. So I'm going to start the video. So we're starting with the preparation for the first and the second leg of this shipment, which is the transport of from Ludwigshafen to Duisburg in Germany, and then finally to Malewice, which is at the border of Poland and Belarus. Okay, so now logging in as VTG. Here we can see an overview of the shipments of VTG. So now they're starting to create a new shipment. Here we're just entering some dummy data. Here we are selecting the required documents on shipment level. So that's an MSDS and a SIM document. And then we're just entering some information regarding the cargo. And now we're entering the required documents on container level. So now we're just setting up this whole shipment. Right, now we're going to search for the actual shipment. And here we have the overview of it, where you can see the required documents on shipment level. This document collection status is open, and we see 3 container objects, all requiring their own individual documents. And each container will also transport a different chemical, as we will see. So the first one is transporting hexamol, if I'm correct. And we'll see that later. Oh yeah. So hexamol and divergen. Okay, now we're saving all of this thing. Now we're adding on a shipment level document, the MSDS document. Looking into the details of this document. And also the notarization on chain. Right, adding more documents, but now on the container level, so a technical description of the goods. All right, now VTG is going to add roles for various stakeholders of this shipment. And he's going to assign privileges to the roles, and then he's going to assign the role to a stakeholder, which in this case is Hoopak. So that was the end of the document collection part of VTG. So they have done their part of the shipment, or the preparation of the shipment. Now we're logging in as Hoopak to do their part in the document collection of this shipment. So let's play again. So they will reject the MSDS document. Apparently there was something wrong. So we see that the status goes back to rejected. Now we imagine that VTG received a notification, upload a new document that is now again checked by Hoopak and was also approved. So now Hoopak will upload a SIM document. In particular for the transport over Germany and over Poland. Now we are logging out again. So this was the end, let's say, of the preparation for leg 1 and 2 of this transport. Now we're logging in as a Polish customs agent, and now we're going to see the preparation for the next legs of this transport, which means the transport from Malewice, Poland, to Alashanku on the Chinese-Kazakh border, and lastly to Shanghai. The Polish customs is viewing and confirming the attached documents. So there was the MSDS documents were missing, or no, sorry, let me rephrase that. The SMGS documents were missing because they're required to, let's say, do the eastern part of the shipment. So the Polish customs agent revealed this and requests Hupak in real time to upload these documents to be able to continue the shipment eastwards. So Hupak uploads the MSGS document. And now we are able to log in as the Chinese rail agent. He can see that all the documents are there. And verified. Now the document collection status is now finished. And the transport is basically green light and has all the required documents in place to reach its final destination. So that was the end of the demo. So in summary, what you have seen is that documents can be added, updated in real time, on request and on the go, preventing all sorts of delays and thus increasing operational efficiency. Stakeholders can verify the integrity, the ownership, and the existence and the date of submission of these digital documents. And stakeholders are informed in real time about document updates and the collection status for them to anticipate on the ongoing and incoming cargo. So that was the end of my presentation. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks, Wout. It's good to know that the blockchain technology, because that's the aim, I think, that you are using them in real application and certainly in logistics. What is missing always, that's the key where railway is. Because you know that okay, we are representing road rail, so unfortunately it's difficult to find a business case, maybe not the business case, but already solution that are in place, I think, to integrate in all transport modes. Yeah, there's one question in the chat. Does in the demo that you make on this intercontinental platform, does the initial information for each container have to be determined manually? If you want, I can answer because I was part of that.
I think you're more informed.
No, indeed. So that's a prototype. So that's because what we had to demonstrate is the process. That's coming back to Stefan's comment to say that we can develop a process in which all actors can be involved, and this was in an intercontinental here environment. And that was really for preparation purpose to say that, look, if you prepare better, I think the document management, you will speed up the process, because currently our operators are losing a lot of time, and we didn't develop the fully digitalization process for example, encoding the container. So that's why you see for the moment the demonstration just as a manual environment, because that was not the purpose of the prototype. And yes, indeed, you have VTG as a shipper company, you have Hupak as a intermodal operators, you have a customs agent. at both sides, because there is a switch between the European system to the more Asian system. That's why you have heard about different types of documents here. You have the SIM consignment note, but then you have the SGMS consignment note, and we have to comply with that. And then comes all the requirements that coming from the Chinese and railway undertakings and authorities. We are really switching from different system, and here just to demonstrate that it was possible to develop. We had limited time, limited budget, but we have managed, I think, to have the demonstration. We were always thinking to make, of course, much more, but unfortunately it was not possible. And we would like to further, of course, develop such a system, I think, in an intermodal context. Yeah. But unfortunately, yes, indeed, in the beginning, we had to manually encode those information. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I may add a tiny
Of
bit
course,
on
yeah.
that. In the meantime, since we're not working on Planet anymore, we we have been sitting still. So we developed a in-house tool that we call DocHard, which allows for the complete digitalization of these documents with the help of OCR, optical character recognition. And so basically, that would solve this manual input problem. So you would just upload a scan or a PDF of the document. DocHard will then recognize all the text, put it in data objects that can later be processed by these kinds of systems. So also for the manual input part, we got it covered by now.
Okay, thanks, Wout. I don't see any other questions or comments, I think, on the different presentation. And again, please excuse, I think, TransFollow, I think, because I have the convener, unfortunately, that he's sick and he cannot join. But I will try, I think, to have at least a presentation, I think, of the company and their solution. So 11:20, so that was the exact timing for normally the conclusion. But question and answers. I'm just here looking in the chat. There is nothing for the moment. But we, as a consortium, we had some question then to the audience about smart contracts. So I will use here the polling system that we have in Microsoft Teams. So I will start a first question. It's about your role in the supply chain. So I will launch the polling. I hope that everybody will be seeing this on his screen. So I will launch now the question. And a very simple question. We would like to know a bit, I think, where you are standing in the supply chain, and multiple choice are possible. If you are having different functions, it's important, I think, that you can also then make that. Yeah. Sorry, it's only one choice here. So far, I received 35 responses. May I ask if you see the results of that? Because I see it, but I hope that you see also the evolution, I think, on the number of responses. Remy, you see that?
I can see them, Eric.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, thanks. I hope then also then for the audience. Okay, thanks for confirming in the chat that you see then also the evolution, because sometimes you are using new technologies and you don't know exactly what will happen. That's also my concern. But okay, that seems to be working. So when I see we have a mix, an interesting mix between the different supply chain players. So we have operators, so terminal operators, LSPs, we have railway undertakings, consultant, industrialization, and others. Okay, 44% is the majority. Okay, then it's important, I think, then to try to define better, I think, the roles. I would be interesting, I think, to know exactly who is behind this others, because that's of course important, I think, if so many people are considering themselves not part of the define. Okay, thanks for that. Now I will go then to the second one. it's about now really smart contracts. You have heard about the definition of smart contracts, and that's the question now. In your opinion, in which of these areas would the use of smart contracts benefit the most? Exactly the same, so it's one answer. We are reaching now nearly 40 responses. So basically, it's speeding the contractual process. That is on the top one. And second one is on the trustiness of the transaction. I'm just waiting some seconds more, I think, to let all people respond. Okay, I think the ranking will not change, I think, in the next seconds. So still speeding contraction process is 39%, followed by the trustiness of transaction with 32. Yeah. And we have reached 50 responses. So thanks for this question. And then comes a very simple question about smart contracts again. Would your company be willing, sorry for the spelling mistake, to adapt smart contracts? Yes, no, maybe. So we are reaching in certainly 50 responsible. So it's a balance here, that very clear statement that for 41% of the participants will go in this direction. But still, I think there are some consideration. This maybe is certainly, I think, where the sector and the intermodal sector is that, yes, it might be a solution, but not so sure. And there are a few people that say clearly no. To be clear, UIR is not pushing for blockchain. It's just to understand if there are benefits with this technology for our sector. That's why we are involved in this project. Yeah. Okay, and then we have a last question. I will try, I think, also then to reach 50 if this is possible. If not, 46. Okay, so thanks for your responses. And I will launch the last question, is about what are for you the main obstacles of adapting smart contracts in your company? And thanks for the person that are adding some responses in the chat. We will consider that, and we will of course integrate this into our reporting. So for that particular question, so the main obstacle is seen as a technology matureness. And the second one, then I'm not so surprised, the rejection of the traditional way. So that's you have to abandon to say, yeah, and we speak about improving process. You are in an existing process and you have to change it. That's the typical way, and that's completely normal. That there are some fears and concerns behind that, and also investments that are to be considered. Yeah. Indeed, I see other effort required to manage change. Exactly, I think that's where we are standing. I think it's not only for document management. Is I think in the overall digitalization, we know that we have to go maybe in this direction, but it's difficult, I think, to say maybe I have to do something else, and I have to say this part of my solution has to be then done in a different way. Okay. Thanks a lot. So I will then here really close, I think, the polling. That was the last question. I have just a question. Celestino, you want to say something for the future? Because I know that you are involved as a technical coordinator, because I think we are going to launch a survey with more detailed questions on that. So can you maybe tell the audience, I think, how we are going to proceed and what would be then expected? Yeah.
Well, we are preparing, as Eric said, a survey with additional questions, and probably it will be launched the next month. So we will have a meeting in Verona with some stakeholders to define better the question, and afterwards we plan to share it openly. And yeah, you will receive, I think we have our email, so you will receive this survey. We will be very helpful. We're very happy if you could share with us your concerns and any information that you could have regarding the implementation of smart contracts.
Okay, so it's now me as the moderator to close the webinar. So first of all, many thanks for the speakers, I think, and for their contribution, I think, to this event. Many thanks, I think, for the participants to the webinar. What I retain from the speakers, so definitely blockchain technologies are used. So it's not only for the financing environment, it's used in logistics. What I see is the lack, I think, of integration, I think, with maybe other transport modes. There are a lot of things going on, I think, on road, for example. We have to be careful, I think, that, again, we're not creating a gap, I think, with the other transport modes and definitely with rail. So we have to go and to develop furthermore, I think, that, because that's really an important, I think, evolution, I think, to integrate then also then the logistic part. And definitely, I think UAR will play on that. About demonstration, so you have some platforms here. Of course, there are much more, I think, on the market that will be then also addressed as UIR to have a kind of analysis and create a catalog of all these digital initiatives regarding document management and blockchain and smart contracts, but now focusing really on intermodal. Next steps, we will share, of course, I think, the slides and the different documents after the webinar. This will be then sent to all participants, so, and even those who have registered but couldn't hear and participate online. And normally there will be also then the video, because it was recorded, I think, will be also available. I can only thank you again. Wish you an excellent day, and yeah, please, I think when you will receive the survey that's to the participant, it might be very helpful. I think that you can also then fill in this survey, I think, for the purpose of the project. Yeah. Wout, Celestino, Stefan, I don't know if Lisa is still there. So many thanks, and see you soon. Yeah. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Enjoy. Yeah. Bye bye. Lisa, you're still there. Thanks. Okay. Bye bye, Lisa.